Guys, today's video is simply epic because we're going to talk about the new anime Dragon Ball Daima. Have you ever stopped to think that this new anime could be happening after the Tournament of Power? And if that really happens, Zeno-Sama could look like it since Goku has the button to summon Zeno if he needs it. But it doesn't end there because we're going to talk about the Super Saiyan 4 from Dragon Ball GT. Could this epic transformation appear in Dragon Ball Daima? And of course, in this video, we will also talk about Gohan, who does not appear in the trailer. So the question is whether he will participate in the battles or continue his studies after the Tournament of Power. Well, we will see all this much more before we start. And it is very important that you have left your like, which is very important, and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos. And of course, if you can leave a super thank you, I will be very grateful. Having said all that, let's get back to the video. Guys, to start, let's talk about one of the characters who is very powerful and has huge potential, but unfortunately for us, he doesn't appear much. But when he appears in fights, we already know that he's going to do something very surprising, and this character is the first son of Son Goku and also the first hybrid between a human and a Saiyan. This is Son Gohan, or just Gohan. For those who don't know who Son Gohan is, something I highly doubt, Gohan is the eldest son of Son Goku and Chi-Chi and is the older brother of Son Goten. Both are hybrids between a human and a Saiyan, and the two children of Goku have extremely high power by human standards. And even though Goten and Gohan have great power, they live simple lives. Currently, Gohan is married to a human called Videl and has a daughter called Pan, who has not yet demonstrated the traits of a Saiyan like her father, uncle, and grandfather, but she apparently has great potential. Even though you already know, let's recap some moments in Son Gohan's life and some of his achievements from Dragon Ball Z to the last Dragon Ball film released, titled Dragon Ball Super Superheroes. Son Gohan's first appearance is in the first episode of Dragon Ball Z, and there we see that he inherited great characteristics from his father Goku, and the main one was the tail he had when he was a child, showing that just like his father, he was a Saiyan. But Gohan never showed interest in martial arts because Gohan didn't like hurting other people. He demonstrated that he didn't mind hurting other people if it was to protect his friends and family in general. Gohan didn't mind fighting if it was to protect those that Gohan thought were important to him. If necessary, Gohan would even kill his enemies if it meant that he would be able to protect those he cared about, showing that Gohan had a very pure and kind heart from a young age. Now, talking more about Son Gohan's latent potential, we can already see that he is supposed to be one of the 10 most powerful beings in the anime at least. But I say that leaving aside beings like the gods of destruction, the angels, the high priest, and Zeno, because we know that they are above all beings, so we wouldn't be able to put them on our power list. So if we remove them from that group, Gohan is among the most powerful at this moment. During the Saiyan saga at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z, we saw that in a moment of fury, Gohan managed to increase his power and destroy the spaceship of Raditz, his uncle on his father's side. And not only that, but Gohan managed to hurt Raditz. And thanks to this injury, Goku and Piccolo were able to defeat Raditz, where he and Goku ended up dying. That was the first fight where Son Goku lost his life. And sometime later, Vegeta and Nappa came to planet Earth, where Gohan ended up transforming into an Uzaru, and using that power, almost ended Vegeta's life. Gohan ended up losing his Saiyan tail, as well as Vegeta, who had lost his tail that same day too. After our beloved Saiyan saga came the Frieza saga, where Gohan was much stronger because of the great patriarch, and in this saga we saw that Gohan is no small feat because Son Goku's son, even though he was considerably weak, Gohan was able to face Frieza in his second form, which in this case was the form where Frieza became big and muscular, and in a fit of rage Gohan managed to face Frieza and forced him to transform into his third form. In the future, Frieza was defeated by Son Goku, and not long later came the Android saga, and in it Gohan was not so prominent, at least not at the beginning, but at the end of the saga, when Cell was already in action. Gohan got the shine that everyone was waiting for. After hearing the words of android number 16, Gohan ended up staying in shock as he saw Cell kill android number 16 by crushing the android's head, and with that, Gohan for the first time stopped trying to control his anger and instead released it all at once, making Gohan the first to achieve Super Saiyan 2, and using that new power he was able to defeat Cell. But in the end, Gohan ended up having help from Goku. who had died when teleporting to the world of the Kaioshins, where Cell's body ended up exploding, killing Goku in the process, but he still managed to help his son who was on planet Earth. After all this happened, years passed and Gohan stopped training and evolving. He had decided to live a more normal life, going to school and everything, where the Saiyan ended up meeting Videl, his future wife and mother of his daughter. Gohan didn't want to expose himself too much, but he saw that crime in the city was high, so he ended up taking on the title of the Great Cyberman, a warrior of justice who fought against criminals. And now, as a fan of Dragon Ball and Son Gohan, I see myself forced to say that that was a ridiculous thing to do to Gohan, not because he was a defender of the weak or a hero, but because of the way he acted like a hero, which was quite shameful in my opinion at least. But what did you think of this Great Cyberman? Leave your opinions on this, but please don't fight over different opinions. But even with this Great Cyberman fiasco, which in my opinion was something shameful for someone as powerful as Son Gohan. Speaking of power, at the end of the Majin Saga, Gohan was called by Shin to be trained in the world of the Supreme Kaio Lords, where he was going to be able to remove the Z sword from its resting place, and when they tried to use the sword, it ended up breaking itself and releasing the former Supreme Kai, and with that Gohan began to be trained by the Supreme Kai, and thanks to this training Gohan was able to release his hidden power, which in reality was more of a ritual than a training itself. But with that ritual Gohan achieved his new transformation, which was the mystical form, and with that power he was able to face Majin Buu, but thanks to his arrogance he ended up being absorbed by Majin Buu, showing that Gohan is someone powerful. But when he manages to demonstrate this power, he becomes very arrogant, just like Vegeta, and this is usually the reason for his defeats. So Gohan's only weakness is his ego, which increases when he reaches a power above his opponent, but other than that Gohan does not have a weakness that is demonstrated as openly as his arrogancy. Now in the last Dragon Ball film titled Dragon Ball Super, Superheroes, Gohan had to go after his daughter who had been kidnapped, and throughout the film Gohan increased his power, and Pan, to motivate his father, pretended to be in danger, leaving Gohan furious. And at the end of the film, Gohan demonstrated that he had a new transformation that was released based on anger when he saw the state in which Piccolo found himself in the hands of Cell Max. And thanks to this enormous amount of anger, Son Gohan released his transformation titled Gohan Bestial, which I must say was very beautiful, especially with that more bestial and animalistic look that Gohan has, and that expression on his face as if he were a predator who had set his eyes on his new prey, which in this case was Cell Max, who was defeated by Gohan and Piccolo. But a new question crossed my mind. Could this bestial form be Son Gohan's last transformation, or would he have another one in the future? Leave your opinions on the subject. Are you happy with this transformation, or would you like a new one in a future that I hope is not so distant? Now that we finally finished recapping much of Gohan's story, let's talk about why he didn't appear in the Dragon Ball Daima trailer. After all, many characters appeared and many of them aren't that important, but Gohan is very important, so he should to have appeared in the trailer, which leads me to believe that this possibly did not happen, because if Son Gohan had appeared at some point in the trailer, it could have made it clear in which part of the story Dragon Ball Daima is taking place. It could be at his wedding with Videl, because in the trailer the place where they are is completely decorated and there were several gifts in the place, so it must be a party, and it couldn't be Bulma's, because she is very rich, she doesn't like receiving gifts, and there would be no reason for Shin and his assistant to be there. After all, they are not friends with Bulma, but they are friends with Gohan, so it would make more sense for them to be there to celebrate Gohan's wedding, and that is why Gohan did not appear in the trailer, as it would make clear the period in which the story takes place. Now about Shin and his assistants being there, it shouldn't be possible since they were fused at that time, but a possible explanation for them being separated was because when Shenron's power was used, his power separated them after all. As Shin and his assistant were fused, it would not be possible to make them become younger, as a fusion does not have a childhood, so Shin and his assistant were separated and returned to being children thanks to Shenron's powers. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a strong assumption about what period Dragon Ball Daima will take place in. It will be before the appearance of Beerus and Whis, because when they appear, Videl and Gohan were already married and Videl was a few months pregnant. And how they ended up of getting married, it would not be possible for this to have happened, as Videl would not yet be pregnant. So with this new information, we can say that Dragon Ball Daima takes place before Dragon Ball Super, and as such no one still has divine powers and Gohan is no longer a fighter. but this is strange since this normally doesn't happen, releasing a Dragon Ball film or adventure with a past story, but a future one. So we can't say for sure that it will be before Dragon Ball Super, but we can't say that it was after. So what do you think, Dragon Ball Daima is set after the Majin Saga or after the film Dragon Ball Super Superheroes? Leave your opinions in the comments. Guys, now let's talk a little about the character who reigns over all the others, regardless of their level of power, because he is the supreme being, and I couldn't be talking about anyone other than the powerful and unmatched Zeno, the absolute god of Dragon Ball Super. Let's talk a little about him, but we will have to take into account that Dragon Ball Daima will be taking place after the end of Dragon Ball Super, after the end of the Tournament of Power, where android number 17 emerged as the winner. To talk a little about Zeno, first we have to talk about who exactly Zeno is and what his role is in the Dragon Ball Super anime. For those who don't know, Zeno is the absolute being of the Dragon Ball franchise who was only introduced to us recently in Dragon Ball Super, where divine beings such as Beerus and Whis were introduced, who were the first to appear. Other gods such as the KO Lords, who are gods but are on a completely different level when compared to Beerus, as the KO Lords are a kind of guides and nothing more, while Beerus is a god of destruction and one of the main beings of the 7th universe. Were then presented Champa and Vados, and with that the multiverse aspect was introduced into the anime, and at the end of the tournament created by Beerus and Champa, Zeno was introduced for the first time, and the moment the two gods of destruction saw Zeno, they both lowered their heads immediately, not out of respect for him, but out of an absolute fear towards Zeno. And as you must know, the gods of destruction are very proud because of their power and rank as destroyer, and seeing Champa and Beerus with that immense pride kneel before a being with a childlike appearance was a great surprise for everyone, showing that we shouldn't judge by appearance and that appearances can be deceiving, because no one would be afraid of Zeno if they looked at him in reality. They would think he was extremely weak. Only those who knew him knew of his powers possessed that extreme fear of him. Zeno is currently the most powerful being in Dragon Ball Super, and it is not known if there is another that has a similar or higher level of power than him. And even though many believe that Zalama, the creator of the Super Dragon Balls, is stronger than Zeno, this it is not proven and is just an assumption created by fans. After all, Zalama himself never actually appeared in the anime. He was only mentioned a few times, but we can say that he is on a similar level to Daishinkan the High Priest and Zeno's nanny, so we know that Zalama is no small feat. Still, at the end of the Champa tournament arc, we saw that Son Goku ended up managing to acquire a certain friendship with Zeno, and all this thanks to his great innocence. And as Goku is not very intelligent, we know that even though he knew who Zeno was, Goku approached the Supreme God. Beerus immediately reprimanded Goku because he saw it as a lack of respect, but Zeno didn't seem to mind. On the contrary, he liked that and Goku's courage for doing that, even if the Saiyan didn't do that out of courage. But because he's too stupid to care or understand who the being in front of him was, the one who could easily erase the entire universe without even leaving the place. Now, talking more about Son Goku and Zeno's friendship, we saw that they became friends after the Champa tournament. Now, why would a being as powerful and imposing as Zeno befriend an impertinent mortal like Son Goku? Some wonder why this happened, and I have a mere assumption about this friendship, and I would like you to give your opinions about it. My assumption is that Zeno, being the supreme and absolute being of all the 12th universes, he didn't have many friends and had few people to talk to. The people Zeno had were his two bodyguards and Daishinkan, the father of angels, and this to he was already normal. Zeno didn't need anyone else, and no one tried to become friends with him because all those who knew him could never be his friends, as they were afraid and even terrified of his powers, as demonstrated by Beerus and Champa, who, upon seeing Zeno, both gods of destruction, were automatically very afraid. But unlike all the beings Zeno had ever met, Son Goku was the first to approach him without being afraid of him or his powers, and started an informal conversation, something new for Zeno because those who knew him treated him with absolute respect. So Zeno must have liked not to be treated as a being superior to everyone, but as an equal. And in my opinion, that was what made Zeno want to have Goku as his friend, and probably his first friend that he has had throughout his his entire life, which is very long. So that would be the reason why Zeno gets along so well with Son Goku, because he simply doesn't treat him as a being superior to him, but he also doesn't treat Zeno as someone inferior, but rather as an equal, which made many think this was bad. But for Zeno it was perfect, and if anyone tried to criticize Goku about this approach, Zeno would simply erase this being from existence. But as initially said, this is my point of view regarding Goku and Zeno's friendship. Now what would yours be? Leave your comment about Goku and Zeno's friendship. Now talking about a specific episode in Dragon Ball Super called I Want to See Son Goku, Zeno's Call. In this episode, Zeno says that he wants to be friends with Son Goku, and as a sign of their friendship, Zeno gave him a button that could summon him at any time regardless of where Goku was, even though he found it a little weird. Goku accepted, and this button showed itself very useful during the final battle against Zamasu, where Goku summoned a version of Zeno from the future Mirai Trunks and asked Zeno to put a definitive end to Zamasu, and even though Zeno thought it was strange, he did so, and destroyed Zamasu along with probably the 7th universe. As Goku had promised Zeno a friend, the Saiyan ended up taking the future version of Zeno, who also liked the Saiyan, and took him to his past version, and as they were practically the same person, present Zeno and Zeno from the future ended up becoming friends, and both became friends with Goku. After the entire Tournament of Power, where the 7th universe emerged as the winner, Zeno was surprised by android number 17's decision to want to restore all the universes erased during the Tournament of Power. But this left me slightly intrigued in one aspect. Would it be that if the 7th universe had been defeated and Jiren had won the Tournament of Power, the two Zeno would erase the 7th universe and all the beings that lived there, including Son Goku himself? Or would they spare Son Goku's life? After all, they were friends of the Saiyan. In my opinion, Goku would be spared and would find a way to bring everyone back to life in the near future. But if Zeno knew about Daishinkan's plans, they could end up eliminating Goku, and sometime later, Goku would come back to life after Daishinkan used the Super Dragon Balls to summon Super Shenron and revive the entire universe. Something that I believe would happen regardless of the winner of the Tournament of Power. But this is just my opinion. What would your opinion be regarding the ending of Dragon Ball Super if the 7th universe had been defeated? Leave your opinion there. After remembering all this, we can say that if the story of Dragon Ball Daima takes place after the end of the Tournament of Power in Dragon Ball Super, we can wonder if Goku still has the same button that Zeno had given him, or if Goku somehow lost it. Or did you forget where you kept it? And if the Saiyan still has that button, what could happen if he summoned Zeno? Would Goku be able to summon one or both of them, because both Zenos are the same person just from different timelines? Leave your opinion on all of this. Now imagining that Goku had this button and used it to summon Zeno from the future and Zeno from the past, would they have their younger appearances, or would they be completely immune to Shenron's powers, even though they do not change any of their powers, but rather just the physical appearance? I believe it would be possible for this to happen with higher grade divine beings like Beerus and Whis, but when it comes to Daishinkan and Zeno, I doubt that Shenron's power would have an effect on them. Maybe Super Shenron could do that, and if it were him, I would believe it, but good old Shenron wouldn't be able to do that. But all of this is just my point of view. What would be your point of view, my dear subscribers? Do you believe that Shenron would be able to affect the appearance of very high-level beings like Daishinkan and Zeno just by changing their appearance, or would he not be able to do something like that? Leave your opinions and views in the comments. Guys, now let's talk about Goku and his Super Saiyan 4. Could he appear in Dragon Ball Daima? Well, for those who remember Dragon Ball GT, you know that when a Saiyan gets younger, like Goku and Vegeta are at the moment, their Saiyan tail can grow again. So much so that in Dragon Ball GT, Goku regained his tail, and with that he achieved a new transformation. So perhaps Goku and Vegeta, now that they are younger, they will be able to recover their tails, and with that end up awakening an even greater power than they currently have. And this power could be Super Saiyan 4, which, even not being as powerful compared to Super Saiyan God, he would be a great power in the hands of Goku and Vegeta, and that would be a great coup to get even more fans. Because as we know, Akira Toriyama likes to bring back some things from old generations of Dragon Ball, so he could easily bring Super Saiyan 4 back, and with a new animation, which would be a huge blow to the entire internet. What do you think of this? Do you think Super Saiyan 4 will return in Dragon Ball Daima or not? Leave your opinions on this subject. Reasons that led me to believe that Super Saiyan 4 will appear in Dragon Ball Daima. Said by Akira Toriyama himself, he used many resources and inspirations related to Dragon Ball GT to create Dragon Ball Daima, and this leads me to believe that what caught the most attention in Dragon Ball GT appears in Dragon Ball Daima, which in this case is Super Saiyan 4, which was and still is one of the most beloved transformations by Dragon Ball fans, and I would really like to see Super Saiyan 4 back on the screen in a new animation, even more so if Gogeta appears and uses Super Saiyan 4, which is one of the most powerful and cool transformations, in addition to having one of the coolest designers among the Super Saiyan forms presented so far. But what is your opinion, my dears? Do you think Super Saiyan 4 could appear in Dragon Ball Daima at some point? Leave your opinion in the comments. Another question that arose in my mind: if Super Saiyan 4 appears in Dragon Ball Daima, how strong would he be? All Dragon Ball fans know that Super Saiyan 4 is one of the strongest transformations in Dragon Ball history, but everyone also knows that it is not a divine transformation like Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan Blue, and Super Saiyan Rose. So if she returns to the screen in Dragon Ball Daima, will this transformation be as strong as Super Saiyan God? In my opinion, Super Saiyan 4 could be placed on the same level as Super Saiyan God, this being the most powerful transformation that Goku and Vegeta could achieve without going to the divine level itself. However, this transformation into Super Saiyan God could be weaker than Super Saiyan Blue, so we could balance the level of the story a little. Just remembering that this is my humble opinion, so if you want to show your opinion, just comment, and depending on your argument, my opinion and that of the other subscribers may change. Still talking about Super Saiyan 4, we know that Goku in Dragon Ball GT, when he achieved his transformation into Super Saiyan 4, he had to go through the process of transforming into an Uzaru and then into a Golden Uzaru. Then he remembered who he was and transformed himself in Super Saiyan 4 for the first time, but at that time, Goku was still the size of a child. But when he transformed into Super Saiyan 4, his body looked like that of an adult. So will it be that if Dragon Ball Daima has Super Saiyan 4, will Goku possess the size and body of an adult while transformed into Super Saiyan 4? Or would he be a mini son? Goku transformed into Super Saiyan 4. I don't know exactly how it would happen, but if we follow the logic of Dragon Ball GT, when Goku or Vegeta transform into Super Saiyan 4, their bodies will grow until they reach adult level, and when they return to their base forms, they will become children again, following the logic of Dragon Ball GT. But what would be your opinion? Because in my opinion, this would probably happen if they have the ability to transform into Super Saiyan 4. We cannot forget, ladies and gentlemen, that Goku in this new anime will not venture alone but with Vegeta and Shin, and possibly even with other friends of theirs, and just like in Dragon Ball GT, Goku and his friends will travel the worlds. But this raises one question: why would they be doing this? We've already seen in the trailer that at some point Goku and his friends will meet the demons on another planet, but are they traveling through the planets to find and defeat the demons, or is there something more? If we compare it to Dragon Ball GT, in it Goku had to leave the Earth and wander through space, but he did this to recover the Dragon Balls and thus prevent the end of planet Earth. That was the reason Goku traveled across the universe. But in Dragon Ball Daima, the Dragon Balls are still on planet Earth even after being used. But to use them again, Goku and his friends would have to wait about 1 year. So either Goku and his friends are wandering around the universe after the demons, or looking for a way to make them have their old bodies again. And if Goku and his friends were weaker, they would regain their old strength, and with that it would be easier to face the demons and thus save the universe or prevent May the Makai world be freed. But what would be your opinion, my dears? Leave it here in the comments. So guys, the video ends here, but remember, don't forget to like the video to motivate me to bring epic videos like this one. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any news. So bye.